Convocation.
Good morning and good afternoon, all. My name is Brian Clark, and I'm the current chair of the Board of Trustees for CTS. On behalf of the entire board, I'd like to welcome everyone to the convocation today. Before I turn things over, two quick thank yous, and one welcome home. I'd be remiss if I didn't offer up a deep and thankful and heart-filled thank you to Dr. Marcia Foster Boyd, who served this last academic year as our president. We are so deeply grateful for everything that you've done for the institution. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Speaking of interims, I wanted to lift up Interim Dean Rachel Mikva and her work as Interim Dean this year. Very much appreciate that. I think she's just about ready to head off into a much deserved sabbatical, but thank you for that. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to shout out a loud welcome home and welcome back to Dean Reverend Dr. Stephanie Crowder. Look forward to her presentation this year and her leadership as we head into next year. So thank you very much for everyone's attendance, and God bless everybody.
Good afternoon. I bring you greetings from Dean Mikva, as well as regrets for not being present for today's convocation, but she is, as we speak, traveling to California to celebrate Passover with extended family. And indeed, many members of the CTS community are observing significant seasons for our religious traditions, including not only Passover, but also the Christian Holy Week and the Muslim month of Ramadan. Meanwhile, our academic term continues. Students and faculty members are involved in various oral capstone exams, and we anticipate the graduation of more than 60 students at our upcoming May commencement, which is quite a large number. Yet already next week, students will begin registering for the summer and the fall, and there is much else going on. We are pleased to announce the appointment of Dr. Kamila Rashad as visiting assistant professor of psychology and Muslim studies. Thanks to the hard work of Professor Zachary Moon, among others, we're participating in the launch of the Center for Chaplaincy Studies, along with other founding members of a consortium. We've received a $50,000 grant from the First Analysis Institute of Integrative Studies to fund a cohort learning experience in Abrahamic transformations, and another grant from Wabash on Walking the Talk, which will allow CTS to further our work on intersectional anti-racism. And this evening is our Castaneda Jennings lecture, which will be given by Dr. Ashan Crawley, Associate Professor of Religious Studies and African American Studies at the University of Virginia. Our convocation speaker today is Dr. Stephanie Buckhanon Crowder, our Professor of New Testament and Culture at CTS. She received her BA from Howard University before going on to earn her MDiv at United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio. Under President Foster Boyd, we have now learned. Dr. Crowder then went on to Vanderbilt University for her MA and PhD in New Testament with a minor in homiletics. Her dissertation became the focus for her first book, Simon of Cyrene, A Case of Roman Conscription. And in 2016, Westminster John Knox Press published her book, When Mama Speaks, The Bible and Motherhood from a Womanist Perspective. A dually aligned National Baptist and Disciples of Christ minister, Dr. Crowder joined us in 2014 as Director of Theological Field Education. And starting in 2018, she served as Academic Dean and Vice President of Academic Affairs before taking a much-deserved sabbatical in fall 2021. We look forward to her convocation address today on the topic, MEdemic in a Pandemic, Righteous Indignation and Resistance to More.
Marie, can you cue up the song for us? Friends, I'm not sure what's happening, but let's move forward with our program, and hopefully we can get that song played shortly.
A poem from the pen of Amanda Gorman. Pandemic, meaning all people. Pandemonium, meaning all demon. Pandora, meaning all gifted. Pan, meaning God of nature. All people have meaning, are all demon, all gifted. It is in our divine nature. We now appreciate that Pandora's box was a jar, left ajar, a pathos. To tell the mistranslation then is to risk being remembered by its fiction, meaning a storage container for grain, oil, wheat, and even the dead. We all need places to lay down our grief. Where else to put it? That vessel held all plague, all pain, and all hope. Don't panic. Instead, turn to a companion. What are we, if not the curiosity to open the coffins we carry? We are we, if not all the things we let loose.
I have the song now, so let's get to that.
Things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light, am light.
From the pen of the fabulous June Jordan, Ought to Be a Woman. Washing the floors to send you to college. Staying at home so you can feel safe. What do you think is the soul of her knowledge? What do you think that makes her feel safe? Biting her lips and lowering her eyes to make sure there's food on the table. What do you think would be her surprise if the world was as willing as she's able? Hugging herself in an old kitchen chair, she listens to your hurt and your rage. What do you think she knows of despair? What is the aching of age? The fathers, the children, the brothers turn to her, and everybody white turns to her. What about her turning around alone in the everyday light? There ought to be a woman can break down, sit down, break down, sit down like everybody else, call it quits on Mondays, blues on Tuesdays, sleep until Sunday, down, sit down, break down, sit down. A way out of no way is flesh out of flesh, courage that cries out at night. A way out of no way is flesh out of flesh, bravery kept out of sight. A way out of no way is too much to ask, too much of a task for any one woman.
Administration Calls Us to Too Much by Clarence Heller and more. The devil came to me disguised as more. One more good thing I could do, should do. And then another, and another. I was seduced and misguided. The more sapped my energy, my joy, my delight. There was more harshness and impatience in my voice and my presence. And the devil grinned while God sighed patiently, knowing that when I get worn down enough, I'll come home to my true self, to being my true self in God.
Luke chapter 4, verses 1 through 13 says, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing at all during those days, and when they were over, he was famished. The devil said to him, If you are the Son of God, command this stone to become a loaf of bread. Jesus answered him, It is written, one does not live by bread alone. Then the devil led him up and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil said to him, To you I will give their glory and all this authority, for it has been given over to me, and I give it to anyone I please. If you then will worship me, it will all be yours. Jesus answered him, It is written, Worship the Lord your God, and serve only him. Then the devil took him to Jerusalem and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. For it is written, He will command his angels concerning you to protect you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is said, 'Do not put the Lord your God to the test.'" When the devil had finished every test, he departed from him until an opportune time. Peace.
Well, that's a really handsome fellow, really good looking guy. Surely he takes after his mom. I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. And thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here on this day. To Madam President, mentor, sojourner, and so much more, the Reverend Dr. Marsha Foster Boyd, to Chairman Brian Clark, to Interim Dean Mikva in her absence, to colleagues and friends and those who are a part of this community that we call Chicago Theological Seminary. Thank you for your presence and for being here on this day. Let me begin in this way. As an undergraduate student at Howard University, the first Black biblical scholar I encountered was the late Dr. Kane Hope Felder. Although he was a profound staple at Howard, it was not there that I met the late Dr. Felder. Our paths crossed when he preached at Metropolitan Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. His identity as a New Testament scholar and a preacher intrigued me. As a child, I was precociously fascinated with the who, what, when, where of the Bible, and Dr. Felder's sermon and presence further ignited my fire. Not long after hearing Dr. Felder preach and while reading his troubling biblical waters, Race, Class, and Family, I became curious about Black women New Testament scholars. I wanted to know if there were persons who, well, looked like me doing what I thought I wanted to do. Where were the women? There ought to be a woman. Well, all roads led to Dr. Clarice J. Martin. I met her during the inaugural What Does It Mean to Be Black and Christian conference held at Vanderbilt University. Dr. Martin led a workshop on biblical studies and women as interpreters. After the workshop, I nervously introduced myself and told her what my professional future would be, at least what I thought it would be. It feels peculiar telling someone you want to grow up and be like her. Now I had a visual to coincide with my vision. Where were the women? Surely there ought to be a woman. And considering the ways in which Black women engage New Testament scholarship, I begin with a question that Dr. Martin posits in her article, Womanist Interpretations of the New Testament, the Quest for Holistic and Inclusive Translation and Interpretation. Martin queries, what concerns do womanist biblical interpreters bring to the translation and interpretation of the Bible? As Martin answers this and many other questions in her essay, the interrogatives themselves remain just as relevant then as they were 30 years ago. The world is now, well, 2 years into a COVID-19 context, and it is in light of Martin's questions that, if you will allow me to recontextualize past inquiries in this present setting, using the tag, yes, MEdemic in a pandemic, righteous indignation and resistance to more. Well, here we are, April 2022, 2 years later, billions across the globe and hundreds of thousands in the US have succumbed to a microscopic virus. Education shifted and is recalibrating its modalities. Theological institutions have not gone unscathed. What was once the bread and butter of in-person pedagogy is now the meal of online positioning and virtual instruction. The accelerated shift to remote work and teaching in the pandemic did yield moments of continuous rumination. So yes, as Gorman writes, pandemic, pandemonium, Pandora, meaning all gifted. The gift of COVID questions that capture my attention include, who would have imagined efforts to expound on biblical context in a coronavirus context? Did anyone dare to surmise teaching, exegesis, reading out, leading out of the Bible while trying to see one's way through a COVID-19 conundrum? When did the hallowed halls of academia instruct its subscribers on the tools of interpretation during physical, emotional, and social isolation? What were the models for getting students to focus on methodologies while wearing a mask? Why is it no one told students or aspiring professors that someday lectures on soteriology, sanctification, Sitzenleben would be filtered through sanitizer, bleach, Pine Sol, and Lysol? How are we supposed to stay calm, stay the course, stay connected, perform biblical scholar and student duties when every day is a WTH, even when there is an occasional WTF moment? How do we as professors serve as imam, priest, rabbi, counselor with students who are indeed struggling to hold it together? To pivot from Martin's query, what concerns do womanist interpreters bring to the translation of the Bible in a context where, according to the New York Times, Black people are 3 times more likely to contract the virus, 6 times more likely to be hospitalized, and twice as likely to die? Biblical scholarship pivots on questions, and yet I cut my scholarly teeth on providing answers. Mine is a call to build biblical studies houses in a milieu that many locales still locates working from home. As I noted in a recent blog, ours is a vocation to erect Hebrew Bible, First Testament, Old Testament, New Testament, Second Testament edifices when home is, well, not really home. To quote the late socio-musicologist Luther Vandross, such are the times when a house is not a home. The past 2 years, home has been faculty office, gym, preschool, and classroom. Returning to Martin, what concerns do womanist interpreters bring to the translation and interpretation of the Bible? Well, through a womanist biblical interpretive lens, I strive to find meaning and answers in this COVID-19 context. Some aver that there are, 3 vaccine options and boosters, and that they think that these are post-COVID days, but not so fast. However, as not all have hopped on the vaccination train, may we please proceed with cautious optimism. This present pandemic still looms large, hovering heavily over hearts, minds, spirits, and yes, income. It is in this virus-laden backdrop with womanist eyes that I attempt to comprehend the complexities of this global condition. And thinking about womanism, Raquel St. Clair says that Walker's definition furnished us, Black women, with language and a framework to be who they are, to be who we are, and pursue liberation from sexist, racist, classist, and heterosexist oppression. What concerns do womanists brings? Questions coerce us to ponder the present companions, and pandemic. I pause to consider the us, the you, the we, the me, the MEdemic in this pandemic, not for narcissistic exercises, but as a place to cease, to ponder, to resist the devil's call to more. And you determine what your devil, devilina, Satan, Satina, accuser, antagonizer, tempter, temptress, whatever he, she, they, zer form may be, as I have determined those for mine. And when you find your devil, devilina, Satan, Saintina, send it back to hell. It is through the gaze of womanist maternal thinking that I, as a mother, wrestle with racism and sexism and a sundry of isms and phobias that were prevailing before the pandemic and that surely are still present during this current time. COVID-19 exacerbated and disrobed more so these systemic pressures. A womanist maternal hermeneutic brings to the forefront the voices of Black mothers within this racial and ethnic, spiritual and sociological context, whether the mothers are biological or not, or women for who, whatever reason, took another's child. Womanist maternal thought addresses the specific racial context of Black women and the mothering challenges connecting to it. It purports vicissitudes that are unique to mothers in this social and racial context, and therefore is not universal. Womanist maternal thought avers that mothering is not wedded, if you will, to gender or sexuality, but mothering is an act of nurturing, supporting, of loving to better, of leading to care-filled next through the framing of race, class, and gender. I purport that Black mothers not only have to filter through sexist measures and racial roadblocks, but we must also find ways to maneuver systemic blockades and speed bumps that devalue familial status. Through the fourth dimension, which perhaps yields a womanist quadrilateral, I like quadrilaterals. This womanist maternal method not only scrutinizes the intersection of race, family, and gender constructions, but it also holds class dynamics to the light. Womanist maternal thought underscores economic status and its connection to Black mothers who work. Womanist maternal thought undergirds that a core component of the role of Black mothers is their work, their activity, contributing to children's wholeness and well-being. As corporate arenas and academic institutions can erect monuments of career immobility for women, and Black women especially, the same obstacles present themselves to Black mothers, forced often to choose between career and family. One of this being, yes, a Black woman dean at a predominantly white theological institution. One of being the first Black woman full professor at said institution. Why mention womanist maternal thought in a COVID-19 context? Because there ought to be a woman. Estimates of over 3 million women left the workforce during this COVID-19 crisis. In many families, Black women are the primary child caregivers and have had to struggle working at home with children who were also at home. The jobs of mom, manager, teacher, counselor, cafeteria worker, and CEO all morphed into one online profession with little to no Zoom relief and at the same pay, but exponential stress. The Brookings Institute contends that most Black mothers tend to be single, some by choice. Where family support is limited or non-existent, mothers are the be-all, end-all in a pandemic or not. In addition, any number of Black mothers work low-wage jobs where paid time off is a premium. COVID-19 hit sectors such as retail, hospitality, and dining the hardest, and it is in these industries that we find a significant employment of Black women. Furthermore, there is a dearth of scaffolding around race and childcare. The privilege of taking leave with pay to take care of child or self does not come so easily. Are there exceptions? Oh, absolutely. The Academy affords any quantity of such luxuries for so many of us #mother scholars and #mother students. Yet, according to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, student mothers have 8 to 10 fewer hours to spend on their studies. And still, academia pulls and presses and presses and pulls and stretches us to do more. And as a living witness for the past 3 years, and quoting Heller, yes, Administration calls us to too much. The devil calls us to do even more. Why mention womanist maternal thought in the COVID-19 context? Because there ought to be a woman. Black maternal health was compromised pre-pandemic. Black women were 4 to 5 times more likely to die in childbirth before COVID-19. The well-being of expecting Black women remains just as precarious. While it would be some time before substantial COVID impact data are ascertained, the stress from the pandemic, economic fallout within families, and that Black people in general have been 3 to 4 times more likely to die from the virus, all of this offers what could be, a glimpse of the effects of Black expecting mothers. From a different maternal angle, a June 2020 report from the Gallmosher Institute discovered that more than 40% of women had changed their minds about motherhood because of COVID-19. Of the 2,000 cisgender women ages 18 to 49 surveyed, 40% of Black women said they now want fewer children or have decided not to have them at all. Testing positive for COVID-19 or the uncertainty around prenatal treatment during the pandemic are among the factors. Why talk about womanist maternal thought in a COVID-19 context? Well, you remember on May 25th, 2020, a fake $20 bill cost George Floyd his life. For over 9 minutes, a now convicted Minneapolis police officer felt it not inhumane to kill Floyd. The man in blue drove his knee into Floyd's neck. During what seemed like hours, Floyd voiced not being able to breathe. He pleaded and cried for his life. And before he died, he called for his deceased mama. He is now buried with her. Recent images of the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, Wanda Cooper Jones, who astutely says, if they committed the crime, then they ought to deal with the consequences of killing my child. I've been leaning into womanist maternal thought because from birthing centers to daycare facilities, to the sanctuaries of churches and mosques and temples and synagogues, to the corridors of colleges and universities and seminarities and the divinity schools, the coronavirus has left nothing unsullied or unscathed. Homes were and still are community centers, recreation centers, cafeterias, playgrounds, homerooms, summer camps. Parents were teachers. Big Mama was the tutor. Nana was the IT director. Medea was the principal. Papa was the guidance counselor. A womanist maternal lens in these COVID times illumines community mothers, other mothers, auntie, sister moms, uncle mama, church mothers, and all maternal figures in whatever gender manifestation, identification, whether biological or not. This has been and remains an all maternal hands on deck state of emergency. Conditions have ameliorated, but have not completely resolved. And still, the devil says, turn this to bread, jump here. You can have all of this. Just do more, be more, say more. One more email won't kill you. It's only 2 a.m. Do this, have more, be more, say more, so you can have more. As biblical scholar, administrator, author, minister, and more importantly, mother of 2 sons, I say to the devil, go back to hell. MEdemic in a pandemic says pause, rest, cease, desist. MEdemic and in a pandemic has me asking, how did it happen? When will it end? How many contracted the virus today? How many died? what moves towards removing masks? What does all of this really mean? And until I find some sense of resolve and closure, I'm going to take a knee. No, I'm going to take a nap. Really want to know what I did during sabbatical? Besides co-editing 2 volumes, completing an essay, some of which I'm sharing today, writing 4 blogs, working on the manuscript, being interviewed on 2 podcasts, and producing a video Bible study. What else did I do during sabbatical? I went to the beach every other week. And when I didn't go to the beach, I slept. I slept because I didn't know how tired I really was. I was enervated mentally, exhausted physically, emotionally drained beyond self-awareness. Lesson learned. Yes, there ought to be a woman can break down, sit down, break down, sit down, like everyone else, call it quits on Mondays, blues on Tuesdays, sleep until Sunday. Sit down, break down, and just be down. Well, now that I know better, I covenant with myself, with my body, to do better. And I invite you to check in with yourself. Discern the rest you need, demand the pause to which you are entitled, and then go find the peace of pondering, find happiness as healing and the healing of happiness and the joy of jumping back into the bed. Get yourself some love, some peace, some happiness, not because you are selfish, but because we serve better, we sojourn better, we fight for justice better when we have had some rest. And yeah, go tell the workaholic, capitalistic devil to go to hell. Siblings, get you some love, some peace, get you some happiness, and yeah, get you some rest. I want to thank you for joining me today. This is one way to get people to celebrate my birthday. We are 10 days early, but hey, this is one way to celebrate even early. I'm celebrating all month. Thank you all so much, and please take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crowder, for such a powerful message today. We so needed this, and happy birthday. This is the moment I wish we could hold hands together, actually, but here we are, all of us in the pandemic, but we hold each other in spirit. Okay? As we get inspired by the message and reflect on it for days to come, I'd like to invite you to join me in prayer. And if you have anything you want to lift up in our prayer, please drop the names in the chat box. And as you continue to remember and lift up your beloved ones and communities and yourself, please join me in prayer. Good God, creator of the world, throw us into prayer and celebration as we go out and live with today's message. Loving God, we are grateful for our interconnected web of life you are among us. You are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. Fill us with love and peace and healing power, and inspire us to use our creative energies to build the structures we need to overcome the obstacles of intolerance and indifference. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world, not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution or destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gains at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly connected and united with every creature as we journey towards tomorrow. We thank you for being with us each day, and as we depart from this convocation today, speak to us, dear God, and encourage our hearts. Teach us to walk in your presence, and let this worship be more than a gathering, but a blessing. In your holy name and in your many names, and in our struggle for peace and justice and love, we pray together. Amen.
Do we have the love, peace, and happiness song?
Marie, is the song coming?
Too much love around here to show. You and I, we clearly know. Some days are high, some days are low. Everlasting love can wait. Come and take this great moment in my life. That's why.
Thank you all so much for being here today. Take care of yourself.